It's not a game. So the song we doing now, homies, roll. Let's do this.
Rolling, rolling. We rolling, east side. Roll with us, west side. Roll with us. We rolling. East side. Roll with us, west side. Roll with us. Rolling. We rolling.
It's up to me to open up other people's eyes and make them realize that it's more than this. It's just this right here, you know.
Wild and I are going to open up your eyes in our podcast, If You Only Knew the Half. We'll talk about our lives, our music, what keeps us hopeful.
Tell us about how you met Soulja, and then tell us about your new podcast.
Oh, so how I met Soulja. So, oh God, probably, what is it, Soulja? About 25 years. No, it's got to be about 25 years that I know him. Wow. I was working a high-profile narcotics case on his corner, like on 16th and what was that? 16th and Madison, right? Yeah. And he was actually on the opposite side of the street where we were parked, and we were sitting there watching a location where he was at, and we saw him, and we couldn't kind of make out like what his disability was. So at the time, I believe he was wearing camouflage. So we right away thought he was a veteran, you know, and he got, you know, and we were talking like, holy, look at this guy, man. This guy lost his legs, his hand, like this guy was blown up. And then at some point he came over to us and asked us, you know, because we were in a blacked out excursion, you know, a couple of guys, there was two of us in the car, and he came up and he rolled up, he says, "Hey, you guys cops?" And we're like, yeah, we're narcotics. And he's like, hey, I can help you out, man. Just give me a radio. I said, you know, it's funny you say that, because the spot we're watching across the street, we're trying to put a case together. So that's how we met. And Byron actually worked and hung out with us. And then him and I just exchanged numbers. And I would, on my days off or my down days, I would go into his neck of the woods and do some investigations. And I would hang out with him a little bit more and a little bit more. And now we're stuck at the hip now. That's it. Now he's like my adopted stepbrother. He don't like when I say that.
No,
but
I don't work well with steps.
I tell him he's my adopted stepbrother. And
I don't work well with steps.
all right, well,
You're my brother.
You're my adopted brother.
You're my brother.
We've been friends for now over 20 years. I mean, he's like an uncle to my kids. He's like a brother to my wife. You know, and that's it. And it's just, we got each other. And you know, I know all of Byron's background, his family, his mom. I'm close with his mom.
Oh, yeah, she said call her today, too.
I'm going to call her, wish her happy Mother's Day, yes. And there was just a lot going on before I got out of Long Island. And that's how we met. And that's it. We've been friends ever since. We've never had an argument. We've never had a disagreement. You know, we call as much as we can. We keep in touch with each other. Byron comes out, spends a vacation once a year with me, about 10 days. He comes to the house. And yeah, he's family. I mean, he's family. And I brag to all my, you know, friends, and, you know, he's met a lot of my friends and family. A lot of my friends know him. A lot of my friends ask about him. And, you know, they're always so amazed at his, you know, his inspiration. They're always so amazed at his drive. And they're always so impressed and amazed that, you know, being born with no legs and no hands, how he could do everything we can do, from driving a car to being intimate with a woman, to going to the bathroom, to, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, to doing everything that we could do. Yeah, it's just a blessing. And I always tell him that, you know, God works in mysterious ways. Things happen for a reason. And Byron's made the best of his life. I mean, he's done things I never done. I mean, he swam a marathon in the Hudson River, you know, a triathlon. I took him out on the boat last couple of weeks ago. He's a little bit of a baby because I was going over some weight. He said, I don't have a life preserver on. I said, what's the worst that could happen? You bounce out of the boat and it'd be like a buoy, you know?
Hey, look, he almost got us pulled over too.
I'm doing a podcast right now. My stepbrother, my brother, but he's my stepbrother. He was born with no legs and no hands. He only has thumbs.
Excuse me, sir.
and you see him,
We're live.
such an inspiration. I know we're live, but there's a young lady.
This is
I
what
got
we
people
want.
around me, and
This
they're
is
like,
what we
"What's
want.
this
Go
guy
ahead,
talking
man.
about?
Y'all-
No legs, no hands, and he gets intimate." So all of his got everything. And if you, I'll show you pictures of him on my phone. If you see him, you would be amazed. He could do everything we could do, from cutting a steak. Yes, yeah. Oh, you've seen him? Oh, could be. Well, he comes to Florida a lot to see me, but yeah, skateboard. That's how he gets around. And all of my friends and family,
There might be one of my fans right there.
inspiration. Well, you'll have to follow him on his podcast. The podcast is what?
If you only knew the half and child.
If you only knew the half. On
And
YouTube.
child, yeah.
And child. If you only knew the half and child.
Yeah,
it's gonna be on
that's
YouTube,
Wild
so-
Child right there.
Well,
Right,
Child's
but
right
I'm
here.
saying the N sign or AND.
And child.
And child.
Byron Breeze.
Yeah, Byron Briggs.
Um,
Well, what?
James. She knows a gentleman in Florida that has the same thing, was born with no legs, and he gets around with a skateboard. I say, yeah, that's how Byron does. Yep.
Yeah. I also drive Medellin.
Yes, he drives his pickup truck.
Medellin.
Madeline.
What this conversation is, why we have all these preconceived notions and perceptions, and if you look at whether it's soldier or child, we kind of dismiss them, but you didn't, and why?
No. Why did I not dismiss them?
Yeah.
Because he's a human being. I mean, I'm not gonna stereotype somebody because they have no legs and no hands.
Mhm.
I found him in the beginning when I first met him to be an inspiration, as motivation. Like, I would think to myself, I'm having a bad day today, and whatever the case matters, and then I would stop and think for a second. I'd be like, wait a second, who am I to complain about my day when Byron is in a position he's in, and he never complains. He might complain that he's not a millionaire, or he's not driving a Bentley, or he don't have the big house on the mountain, but other than that, he don't complain about nothing. And for him, every day is life. And he had to make it that way because he was born that way. I have pictures of him on a big wheel at 6 years old. So, I never looked at him as a disability. I actually looked at him.
No. A little bit of a. That's okay. A little bit of a.
Yeah, look, I think it's the service.
Yeah, it'll start. I want you guys
How he
ask them.
accepts what he has.
Right.
Huh?
I wanted Soulja and. Go ahead.
But yeah, that's how I don't look at him as any other way but Byron Breeze. That's it.
Soulja and Wild had a question about silencing
No,
the
go ahead.
violence.
I'm trying to hear you. Go ahead.
Soulja and Wild had a question about silencing.
Say it again.
Soulja had a question about silencing the violence and police. What you see, the cross section between, policing, crime, and music. You have a better way of telling. You guys describe what you were talking about before in your music, in your lyrics that you're working on.
So I'm unfortunately, because of the connection here, I'm getting bits and pieces, and you're actually frozen, but I can hear you. I think you said about Byron silencing the violence. You got to say it again for me, Kathy.
Yeah, we was talking about like the police and the music, in the hip hop industry, how they play a part with everyone, how they promote all this violent music over the positive stuff, policing and music, like, have they ever played a part of any of your investigations, or you see it in the music nowadays, like policing and music? You see all these investigations, like some of these rappers that go to jails for some of the music that they put out.
Oh yeah, I mean, you want me to critique the music that the industry's been putting out for years? Absolutely does promote violence. Absolutely promotes violence, promotes nudity, promotes all types of crazy stuff. But that you're never going to change. You'll never change the music industry because it's all about money. You know
But
what
do
I mean?
you see that like in some of the crime that's happening in the streets?
Absolutely,
You know,
absolutely, absolutely.
and like why they go so hard in promoting the negativity instead of the positivity. Like
Byron, because that type of you should know that type of promotion sells money, sells records, makes money, sells out concerts. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And you know what? These artists are slowly starting to come out in the industry, and they're starting to say that the industry, if you don't promote this, then you're off the label. And they're starting to come out like Justin Bieber. Some rappers are starting to come out and say that if they don't go along with what the label wants, that then they're going to get dropped. So when you take these kids that are 17, 16, 18, 25 years old, and they're running around making $1 million, millions of dollars a year, and they got all this flash and the cars and the jewelry and the women and where they're living, I mean, would you give it up? You know what I'm saying? Would
yeah,
you give it up? I mean, it's the root to all evil. Money is the root to all evil. I mean, we have politicians that are lining their pockets ridiculously with money. It's the root to all evil. And you're not going to change that. Pedophiles, you got child trafficking. It's all about money. Drugs coming into the country. It's all about money. Nobody cares that people are dying. Nobody cares that these children are being sex trafficked. Nobody cares that these people are being human trafficked into hard labor for tens of thousands of dollars. It's all about the greenbacks. It's all about the money. And unfortunately, there's more people out there that are soulless, and they're prepared to sell their soul to the devil for that coin. And it's a battle even the cops are up against, because when the cops go out there to police the streets, that's what we're up against. I mean, and now with the country being the way it is, upside down and this way and that way, now you're having a lot of pushback from the Black communities, from the Spanish communities, even the white communities. You're starting to get a lot of pushback with law enforcement. Now, what needs to happen is law enforcement needs to now go back to the basics and learn how to combat this crime, verbal judo, with their mouth. They need to start bringing themselves and taking themselves off the white horse, waving the sword and the guns, and they need to bring themselves down and kind of like more relate to them rather than go against them.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Tom, I hear you.
yep. But you're right. You're right. You hit every point on the head right there.
Say, yeah, I mean,
You hit every point on the head. Yeah.
and it's an uphill battle. And look, if you have 2 or 3 million cops throughout the United States, we've all heard this. There's going to be plenty of rotten apples, opposed to the shiny apples. Are there more shiny apples than there are rotten? Absolutely. But the media is only going to show the rotten apples. They're going to show the bad shootings. They're going to show, the white on black beatdowns and the excessive force from cops. You know what? That comes from training. And that's, on account of like what my podcast is about, that we're out there trying to expose this. I want to expose this. I was just talking to a gentleman about an hour ago about the shooting that we talked about on my podcast, Byron, where they shot the kid that was artistic, that was behind a fence, that was also had like cerebral palsy, and the kid couldn't even, he actually fell down at one point and couldn't even get himself back up. Yes, he had a knife in his hand, but he didn't pose a threat. He was behind a fence. The cops were 10 feet away from him. And if the cops had proper tactics, and if they used their police cars as a barrier to protect themselves, they didn't need to take that person's life. They didn't need to resort to deadly physical force and shoot them. So you say to yourself, how do we fix that? You fix that by starting from the beginning, the police academy, proper training. But being a law enforcement officer for over 30 years in the academy, I got news for you. They train us to shoot to kill. They don't train us to shoot to stop. They train us to shoot to kill. And nowadays, you're getting these young, wild cops that are coming out of the military. They're coming out of having 2 or 3 tours in Afghanistan. They have their PTSD issues. And now they're coming out and they're resorting to the deadly physical force before they resort to a baton, mace, a taser. You know, they're going right to the gun and
Communication, yeah.
exactly. Now, all they had to do is just communicate more. Now, there was another incident yesterday that I saw on social media where there was two young children, about I think 8 and 9 years old, that had a Glock 9mm in the backyard, and they were shooting at the cops.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Now the cops, thank God, did not take these little boys' lives, but now you're talking about these two boys. Again, where does that stem from? Stems from the household. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Foundation, like the mother and father. You know, the father's in jail, incarcerated. The mother's a street walker. So are these kids being properly taught? Are they being properly raised the right way from the foundation up? And I say it starts at home with the young kids with crime. It starts at home. But now I'll give you another, for example. I'm watching TikTok the last couple of days, and here in Florida, it's prom night. And you have all of these kids that are flashing these fancy cars. Like the parents are spending thousands of dollars just to have a Bentley, you know, so the kid could take a Bentley to go to the prom. They're flashing money. You know, it's all negative promotion. And if that doesn't stop,
But that's not their lifestyle. I feel you.
right,
Yeah.
and if
Hey,
that doesn't-
Mr. Joe, I want to ask you a question and Mr. Tom. What sparked the interest in you with the police and Tom with the music? What did you always
No,
do police and music,
no,
Mr. Tom?
no, that was, you know what? That was just a fluke. I have a lot of time on my hands, obviously. And, you know, when President Trump was shot at, I came up with some lyrics. And I'll be honest, you know, I had, you know, AI help me put the song together. And it's about, you know, him being shot. So when Byron was over, I showed him the lyrics, and he had some software on the computer. He's like, look, we could download this, we can make music. But after I heard myself and my wife singing, I said, yeah, I don't think Sony Records is going to be picking this up anytime soon. So I kind of just did it as a goof, and it's kind of like maybe something my wife and I will have just as a goof for the future. I mean, I don't think I'm going to be, I highly doubt I'm going to do
No,
anything.
I think Child was saying, what sparked your interest in being a cop? That's what you were talking about, Child.
Oh, is that what you asked the child?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I mean, it's not a long story, but I'll shorten it. I'm a first generation cop, child. I you know, I don't come from a family of cops. I come from a family of bad guys, believe it or not. My grandfather was involved in the mafia. My uncles were involved in the mafia, and everyone in my family kind of thought I was going to go that way, because at the age of 19, I was working for John Gotti, but not in a criminal way. I was driving a truck for him. But because I was considered family, because he knew my grandfather, I could have probably most certainly went the criminal route. But my wife, which was my girlfriend at the time, inspired me into doing something that had a normal paycheck at a retirement. So when the police department came up, and they were in New York City back in the 90s, they were doing a tremendous push to hire cops. A buddy of mine was like, hey, why don't we become cops? And honestly, I didn't want to do it because I had a very low self-esteem. I had a lot of negativity from my father and mother. I didn't have a good, I didn't have good family structure. They weren't positive. And when I got into the police academy, eventually, that's when my brain opened up, and I said, wow, I could actually make a difference. You know, like I could actually do something. And child, that's my niche. Like that's what I found. And growing up as a kid, I was always the guy helping someone cross the street. I was always the guy following the cops to the fire and all. But again, just a kid, 10, 12 years old, riding a bicycle around the neighborhood. It was exciting. And it still didn't give me the impression of like, oh, I want to be a cop. But I always like to help people. I always like to talk to people. I'm a people pleaser. I'm not into confrontation. If I saw two people fighting on the street, I'm the one breaking it up. But again, nothing in the radar of becoming a cop. But when I did become a cop, my brain kind of opened up, and I said, wow, now I legally have the power to maybe make change. I have a badge, I have a gun. And, I had somebody say to me, child, the other day, he did a background on me with my police career. And he said, you did 22 years on the job. He says, I find it highly impressive that you never had a CCRB complaint. That CCRB is the Civilian Complaint Review Board that is based on civilians, and the civilians like yourself, Kathy, you sit on a panel, and if I, use excessive force towards somebody, you get charges. In 22 years, I've never was brought up on charges. Why? Because I treated people the way I wanted to be treated. I'll tell you a quick story, child, that you get a kick out of this. So I'm working in the housing development in Astoria, Queens. I got about 3 years on the job, and I'm a beat cop. And one night, my captain says to me, "Hey, Labella, I want you to take these 6 rookies and take them out to the development and do some field training with them." Now, I'm not a field training officer. The girl Lisa that does it, she was off. So I said to the captain, I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And he said, "Don't get into any shootings. They're brand new." I said, "Nah, I'm okay." When I got out to the development, us cops have, we call it the gateway. If we see somebody drinking a beer, an open container of beer, that is a way that we would stop them, and that would allow us to do a background check to see if they have a warrant. It was an easy way to make an arrest. But when these people were drinking a beer in their development, I didn't bother them because that was their backyard. So when I had these rookies with me, they saw 3 old guys, probably in their 60s and 70s. At the time, I was about 25. And they go, "Oh, we're going to go over there and give those guys beer summonses." And I said, "No, you're not." And I said, "Let me ask you something. Where do you live?" "Oh, we live in Long Island." "You have your own house?" "Yeah." I go, "You have a backyard?" "Yeah." "Do you have a front yard?" "Yeah." When you have a rough day at work or on the weekend and you want to sit on the front stoop to your house and crack open a cold beer, 95 degrees out, do you do it? All the time. So then what difference does it mean that these guys can't do it, but you can? The development, this is their backyard. This is their front yard. There's no reason to go over there and give them a summons just to look for a collar. These are 3 elderly men that are just enjoying a beer on a park bench overlooking the Hudson River and talking probably about the good old days. So that just came natural. That's just the way I raised myself. I'm not going to give my mother or father any credit saying that they raised me. I raised myself on the streets. I was raised by gangsters. They taught me respect. They taught me loyalty. They taught me love. And they taught me, you make sure nobody messes with you, and you instill fear in people. Well, I didn't like to instill fear in people. I like to instill love. Like, hey, compassion. Look, why can't we just all get along? And that was the type of cop I was. And after a while, working in that development, child, I had Black families that had me over for dinner, barbecues. I mean, I would go to certain families and go over for holidays. And another, for example, there was a woman living in Astoria projects. Her name was Sesame. She was a Black woman raising 5 children from 4 or 5 different fathers that were not around. That's it. The fathers were nowhere to be found. The children ranged from 14 all the way down to 6 years old. Sesame would go out and turn tricks on the corners just to put food on the table. But what she used to do with me was, one day she called up the precinct. Now, she didn't call 911. She called the command and spoke to the desk sergeant and said, "Hi, can you have the foot post officer, post 126, come to my house? I'm having a little issue with my children." So I responded. When I got there, the kids were arguing. And the woman Sesame was there. Rhonda is her name. Her street name was Sesame. All those children needed was a father figure. That's what they were missing, bro, a father figure. So let me tell you, I adopted those kids. As I worked in that development for about 18 months before I moved on and went to Narcotics. But let me tell you, I would go to that house, and after I spoke to those kids and educated them, and they took to me, after a while, not even a while, every time Sesame had a problem, she would call me directly. on my cell phone now. This is about 1997. And she would call me on my cell phone and say, "Hey, Joe, can you swing by the apartment? The kids are acting up." And now I became a father figure to these children, and I would educate them. And I'll tell you, till this day, the son, I forgot his name, but the son said to me, Joe, well, I'm doing a podcast. Of course, everyone can hear me. Go back and sit down and shut up. So, so the son asked me, "Hey, Mr. Joe, are you hungry?" I'm like, "Yeah, Big Joe could always eat." He goes, "Oh, I'm going to make you a cheese sandwich." So right away, being a suburban kid from Long Island, I'm thinking the kid's going to make me a grilled cheese sandwich, or I'm thinking he's going to give me 2 pieces of bread with some sliced cheese on it. So I'm watching him, and he takes a can of Cheese Whiz out of the cabinet, and he puts the Cheese Whiz on the bread, puts it together, and gives it to me. Do you know, 30-something years later, to this day, I still eat Cheese Whiz on sliced bread. I still eat Cheese Whiz on my pretzel rods on account of that young man.
Yeah, you do.
And then what I used to do, other nights and other days, one time I went there and I opened up the refrigerator and there was no food in there, nothing. Opened up the kitchen cabinets, there was maybe a couple of cans of Chef Boyardee raviolis, a couple of cans of beans and corn. So I went to the corner store, the bodega, which I used to give them nighttime protection. I would go there and they would give me $50, $60 of food for free. So I would get a pound of bologna, I would get ham, I would get peanut butter, I'd get sliced bread, I'd get eggs, I would put food, milk, juice, high C, and I would go and take money out of my pocket. Sometimes I paid, sometimes I didn't, but I would go there and put food in their refrigerator. And I just wanted to see them, grow up and do the right thing. And about when I left and went to Narcotics, I kind of lost touch with them. But about 5 years later, I get a phone call from the 14-year-old son that he graduated high school and now he was going to a community college. And you know what? I take credit for that. I will take 100% credit for that because that's what I instilled in his head. I said, the only way you're going to get ahead in life, Andrew, his name was Andrew. I said, Andrew, Anton. I go, Anton, the only way you're going to get ahead in life is if you get an education and you go to college. And I don't care if you go to state school, go to city school. Don't worry about going to a big school. You go to regular college and you make something of yourself. And that's what he did. And I don't know what the younger siblings did, but I eventually got Rhonda off the streets. I got her a job at that corner bodega, okay? And she worked there for many years, 5 or 6 years, because I would periodically check on her from the guys at the store. I'd call them on the phone. "Hey, how's she doing?" "Joey, she's doing great." And she was still, turning tricks here and there. I guess she had some steady clients. Money's money, but she wasn't slinging crack. She wasn't getting high, and she was home at 5 o'clock for her kids. She used to go home at 3 o'clock, make sure they got home. Because I said to her, you have to build structure for these children. You can't be out all day and all night and leave these kids. You're endangering the welfare of them. If Child Protective Services comes here, you're going to lose those children. And I pumped that into her head so much that she completely turned herself around. And yes, I take credit for that. But I wasn't taught that, child. I wasn't Kathy. That I didn't go to college. I'm a high school graduate. I find myself to be very godly.
You became a policeman to
make a difference.
care and to make a difference. And a lot of policemen become policemen just for the
authority.
Don't get in it for this. If you're gonna be a policeman, see, that's what caused a lot of brothers to dislike policemen, because you're not in it because you care. You're in it for all the wrong reasons.
They're in it for the paycheck. They're in it for the badge and the gun. They're in it for the get out of jail free card. They're in it. I could speed. Listen, I felt it. I did it. I had to get out of jail free card. I got pulled over for speeding. I'm on a job. Have a nice day. Red light. I went through a red light. One time I was in Manhattan. The cop said, "You went through 11 red lights. You must be on the job." I go, "Yeah, I am. I'm a detective." And he's like, "All right, have a nice day." So there was some perks to it, but I never over abused it. But the cops today, yeah, it's all about the gun, the badge, the retirement, the paycheck. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, probably 3 out of 10 cops are actually doing it because they want to do it. Unfortunately, that number is decreasing because a lot of our senior guys, we're retiring. So now you have the young kids that are coming on the job and they're not being trained properly. You know, they're being trained the streets of this, the streets of Chicago, the streets of Maryland, Baltimore. You know, you gotta police them, you gotta put them in check. You don't let them take control. And it's not the right way, man.
Right. It ain't what you do, how you do it.
Like the kid that was killed in Baltimore many years ago.
Hey, Mr. Joey, hold on for 1 minute because I want to keep this fair because see, in my field, we'll be here for a whole day, me and you. You understand what I'm saying, my brother? So I want to ask Mr. Tom, what made you get into music?
I don't think Mr. Tom is with us.
Tom?
He better be there.
Tom.
I'll text him.
Somebody better get Mr. Tom on this line in the next
I live in Florida.
seconds.
I'm from New York.
We're going to have a problem.
I'm going to text him.
And
tell him he better get back on this line.
Child, ask Joe about your brother died of fentanyl. Ask him about the fentanyl because I know you've been.
Hey, Mr. Joe, that fentanyl came across our borders and it took my little brother. And ever since then, I've been out the life. I got in at 17. I had no choice. My mother was a single parent at the time, and you know, in the 90s, it
did what we had to
real
do.
Easy for the youth. Be persuaded to the streets. Once I got into the streets, I moved in with smoke. And in order for you to stay here, you would have to bring me a 20 rock every night.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's how it began.
That's called double jumbo.
Hey, Mr. Joey, and I thought this was going to be kind of uneasy when Soulja told me that we was going to be having a podcast with Mr. Joey on here, and for the longest he told me that you have done undercover work, right?
Yeah, 18 years out of 22. That's what I did. I was an undercover.
Hey, Mr. Joey, you got to be the hardest man in the world to take that job. Because as me coming up, I've always looked at it from the street point. I've never looked at it from the mother and the son got to come home and see his mama stranded on drugs and can't get his mother to be a mother because of her taking her life up with drugs and the use of it. Once, God put me on the other side and put me with a female that for the whole year, she was my Beyonce. Then after that, I found out that she was a user, and I didn't judge. No, do what you do. I'm not gonna judge you because of what you do. I don't want you judging me. But it took a toll, and it got worse and worse and worse. To where though I used to sit up at night with my son, waiting for mama to come home. It kind of made me be like, well, this is the reason why undercovers are needed. This is the reason why. And I understood as I got older not to hate undercover policemen or police, but I understand that they're needed.
Listen, I'm in the same boat with you. So my brother and my sister are both, my brother was a cocaine addict. My sister was a cocaine addict and an alcoholic. And, and you ready for this? Being an undercover narcotics agent for over, 22 years and being an undercover for 18 of those 22 years, I didn't see the signs. Well, I mean, I didn't live home, but when I would go around to see my brother, I didn't see the signs. My mom passes away, and prior to her passing away, I had cops, undercover cops at my house. And when I went out to check them, I knew these guys from the DEA, and I thought they were watching me. And, and I was like, why would they be watching me? I don't know. But they said, no, Joe, we're watching your brother. We got a 12-month operation going on your brother. Your brother's selling heroin and opiates. So, I tried to put a stop to it. But my mother kind of like I had a really rough childhood. Like my mom and dad didn't really, they thought I was a goody two boy because I was a cop and I was better than them, but that's their thought. But my mother told me, mind your own business. That's my son and I'll handle it. Well, when I moved to Florida, about 14 months later, the cops raided the house. They arrested him. Thank God, he got off with three years probation, but he got involved with a girl who was a reformed heroin addict. And I begged him not to. He winded up having a baby with her. And a year and a half later, he was in Florida visiting me and she died of a heroin overdose due to fentanyl. So I'm there with you. And becoming an undercover cop, again, it wasn't about me going out there busting heads and buying drugs because I let a lot of drug dealers go. I bought drugs from kids 16 years old and I would tell them, you just sold crack cocaine to an undercover cop. Now, if I arrest you, your life is over. You're done. You're a convicted felon, drug dealer, and that I am going to wind up giving you only one option in life. You're going to have to sell drugs the rest of your life to make money. I go, but you know what? Today's your lucky day. If I ever see you out here again, I will not arrest you, but I will take you in that alley and I will beat you unconsciously. And you know what? I never saw that kid slinging on that corner again. So I even tried to make a difference with that. And you want to know how it comes back to you bifold. Working in the projects, in the development, I had these three older guys. Now, these three older guys were 2-time strikes. So, and they were in their, like, again, I was in my early 20s, and these guys were in their, like, mid 40s. Well, I got news for you. They were slinging crack in front of that bodega. Now, that's why the guy that owned the bodega wanted me to come and hang out there at night when they closed up because they were a little nervous. But I used to say his name was TT. TT Jones. I used to say, yo, TT, when you see me, you shut your operation down. Don't disrespect me. I know you're out here making a living, and I can't stop you because that's all he knows. That's all he knows. But you know what? Some of the young kids in the development that didn't like me, that I used to push around and I tried to talk to them, but they were just too hard. One day I was leaning up against a Toyota Corolla on the hood of the car by the passenger by the driver's side, and TT Jones was across the street, and TT looked at me, and I made eye contact, and in front of his chest he went like this, and I didn't understand what he was saying, but when he did this, I pushed off from the car, and within those split seconds, a cobblestone came off the roof, 8 stories. Those kids were looking to kill me. They were looking to drop that cobblestone on my head. That guy saved my life. But why he saved my life was because I was fair to him. And I treated him like a gentleman. And I used to say to him, I can't stop you from selling drugs because you're 40 years old and that's all you know. But I'm going to stop the 16-year-old that's just getting started. And that was my mission in narcotics, to stop them at that young age and try to set them in the right direction. And I have to say, I think I did for the most part. I mean, you can't change the world. You're not going to stop drugs to come into the country. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. You're never going to stop it. And even the government's not going to stop it. They're going to combat it, but you're never going to shut it down. It's
I got definitely respect for you, Mr. Joe. I think you're looking at is if I can just help one.
Yes. And that's how I went to work every day. If I could just help one today.
That's all right.
Not 2, not 3, just 1. And if it's only 1 for the month, I did my job.
That's all right, brother.
And I was fair. And I'll tell you another one. I was in Flatbush, Brooklyn, working in the 8-4 precinct. I was doing task force, and there was a robbery in progress in a warehouse. I went up to the 2nd floor. I saw the perp. Perp was holding a gun, and he had hostages. I winded up de-escalating the situation. I winded up coming in from both sides, my partners on one end to the other. I had every right justified to take his life because he had a gun in his hand and it was at his side. What the other cops didn't see was that the gun had slide lock. It was empty. And these other cops were ready to shoot this guy in the back. And I said, put your guns down. He's empty. We made the arrest. We took the guns, and that guy later that day in the cell waved me over. I cried, and he says, "I know I'm going to jail." He says, "But I want to thank you for not taking my life. I have 2 kids at home." He says, "You had every right to kill me." He says, "But you didn't." And he asked me why. I said, "Because I'm not doing this job to come and kill people and take their lives and put a knife on my belt. I said, I'm here to give second chance, and I'm here to put people in the right direction." I go, "That obviously, I'm gonna say it, you probably weren't raised correctly, and you probably weren't raised with the proper foundation. But you know what? Maybe this is your second chance to repent and clean your act up." And
go ahead, Mr. Joey. Though you want to throw the repent words out there, my brother? Go ahead. You about to get that spirit going in me, brother. Yes. I think we had more brothers like you in that field that look at things like you look at them. This world, I mean, it would be a whole different relationship between the people and police.
Yeah. And you know what? I really had I wanted to start a podcast with Byron 10 years ago as motivational speakers.
Right.
Obviously, it didn't happen, but a friend of mine, came out of the woodworks that Byron knows, and we started the podcast. And I said to my friend Joey, "I don't want to start this podcast. I'm not looking to be famous." I said, "I want to make change. I want to
I saw the podcast.
Yeah.
I watched it.
I said, I want to educate. I want people to be educated, and I want to teach them what I know. And I want them to know the do's and the don'ts. You know what I'm saying? When you watch TikTok and these kids get pulled over, whether they're black or white, and they tell the cop, "Fuck you, I'm not giving you my license. Yo, blah, 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 blah." And then what happens next? They're being shot. They're being killed. They're being beat down. I want to teach these kids, tomorrow's another day.
That's right.
Comply. Yes. Put your pride in your pocket. Suck it up. Yeah, you might be embarrassed. He might be calling you the N-word. He might
but you live another day.
Tomorrow's another day. We'll fight them. You fight them tomorrow. But you know what? Your life is more valuable than having that white cop or black cop or Spanish cop, whatever color, take your life.
That's right. And Mr. Joey, Satan don't have colors, do
he? No.
He don't care what color you are, do he?
No. And that's what I want to try to teach that. And it's sad it's not being taught. There's no one, and it's happening continuously.
Kathy, any questions?
Hey, Mr. Joy, I missed you got frozen on probably like the last 2 seconds. What did you say?
I just turned around and I just said that I want to educate on the podcast, but I also said that law enforcement today is not teaching these officers the right way. They're not teaching them that. They're not teaching them that you can do more damage with your mouth than a gun.
Yes, the tongue is sharper than a sword. You already know.
Do more damage with your mouth correctly than a gun. But on the other hand, I want to teach these kids, just comply, suck it up. I'm retired. I get pulled over. I get harassed. Just suck it up. Tomorrow's another day. Your life is more valuable than some cop taking your life over nothing. And that breaks my heart. It just hits a nerve. Innocent.
All right, Mr. Joy. It's okay.
I have a question. Go ahead.
Long as we got good brothers like you out here that's trying to make a difference, then hey, you keep your head up, brother.
Yeah. And if I could teach cops to be the same way, like, listen, man, we don't need to go that route. If they're not complying, bring out a couple more cops. Talk them down. Yes, use force, pull him out of the car, put him in handcuffs, but you don't have to put your knee on his neck. You don't have to put your knee on his back. Let me tell you something. They teach you that in the academy, to put the knee on the back. But next time you lay on the floor, have your wife, have your girl, have your friend, put a little pressure on your back. You know what happens? Your lungs, they can't expand. So when you breathe, your lungs go in, your lungs go out. If you're pressing down on somebody, your lungs can't breathe. Naturally, now they're going to start. So why are they being taught that way? Why are they teaching them to put the knee on the back? I've seen cops 2-3 knees on one person's back.
Hey, Mr. Joe, I've been taken in the woods, beaten by police. I've been beaten in the back of the squad car. I've done seen police swing at my mother. I've done seen police draw guns down on my mother. I mean, it just goes to show that that gun is power. And when it's in the wrong hands,
it's bad. All prop. And I'll tell you I was beat down. I was out on the streets in Harlem, working, trying to buy drugs, and three rookie cops, from Long Island, three white cops and a white guy, and they got out of the car and they started talking to me, called me a crackhead, white trash. What are you doing here? I said nothing. I got hit with the baton in my ribs. I got punched in my kidneys. I got thrown to the ground, handcuffed, thrown in the back of the car, and I said, "What are you guys arresting me for?" We'll figure out when we get to the station. Well, they did figure it out, because when we went to the station and my lieutenant said, take my undercover out of handcuffs, and now he's going to give you the big beat down and you're not going to do nothing about it. And those three cops, I gave every one of them a beat down, and they were put in handcuffs so they couldn't hit me back. And that was the lesson that they learned from me. You don't do this to nobody. Forget about I'm being a cop. Why would you do this to anybody? Why would you jeopardize your career and your job for what? You could have innocently questioned me. You could have innocently put me in handcuffs. You could have taken me to the station and disconned me. You didn't have to beat me. You didn't have to hit me with a nightstick. You didn't have to punch me 5 times in my kidneys. You didn't have to put me on my stomach and put your knee in my back where I kept telling you I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Joy, I think Mr. Tom is back on. We don't want to
Tom.
But hey, Mr. Joey, man, I think that off of this, that I definitely you got the other side of it. I have the other side of it. It's a lot of lives that we can make a difference in when you got a police and then you got a hustler, and both of them made changes for the better, for their lives, can touch a lot of people. So
yeah, and I tell Byron.
What I'm hearing from all of you is the sense of purpose and your connection to a spirit, God. I know listening to you, Joe, so passionate, and I know Soulja and Wild, that connection, I'll just call it God, and that plays what I'm hearing, such a huge part in what you all do. Amazing.
Yeah.
Mr. Tom.
Hey, Tom.
We gonna put an APB out on you. Don't do that again.
Tom. Will he put the phone in his pocket?
I think he with the family. I'm a wave. You gonna have to give him a wave or something, man.
Hey, Tom.
I texted him and he's not answering us.
Yeah,
but you know what, child? What we should do? We should, continue with the podcast, but what we should also do is start advocating. Maybe start up like a foundation, something, because I don't see anybody out there, trying to push this, promoting, or try to fix it. All I see is the negativity. The media is putting out bad press. The cops are putting out bad press. I don't see nobody in between correcting it. No one's correcting it.
Just keep going on and on and on.
Yes, and they're not fixing it, and I can't understand that.
Hey, Mr. Joy, when we think about it, when you said it, it's the money. It's the money. It's the higher people getting paid off of things that's coming through the border. We know
prison system, all that.
We know how it began.
It's the music industry.
But this is what we talking about right now, change. And somebody's gonna hear it, and we're gonna change their life. Because I tell all my hustlers now, I said, when I did it for survival, but it took God to put me on the other side of it, to be like, oh, this shit way more important than my survival. Like, this shit is real, y'all. So it just made me know now that, man, listen, your survival, just because you have to survive, that doesn't make it right. It took me a long time to realize, just because you got to survive, child, you think that make it right for somebody, child, to have their mother selling her body to get high? Do you think just because of your survival that it is right for a child to be looking for his mother and don't see her for days and days? Do you think it's right for your survival to have another child see his father nodding in front of him when he can't get his father attention to help him with his homework? Nah, homie. We done.
Yeah.
It's the wrap.
Yeah. And listen, there's so many answers to fixing this, and we have the answers. You know, a male figure in the house, a big brother. You know, get these kids involved in some type of curriculum activity after something. You know, a program. I mean, you know, it's like I almost want to tell the president, like, no, I almost want to tell him, like, start up these youth programs. You remember back in the 70s, we had youth programs.
Yeah.
You go to the youth center, you play basketball.
I don't care what they say about Marion Barry, but hey, he made sure it was summer programs out here for these kids. He made sure that in the summertime come, they had something to do, like in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Though the era was out there, it still was hope. It's like now the hope is gone.
Yeah, I know.
You know, it's like now the social media. It's like you can't even talk to a brother now face to face without like it gotta start with, like you said, the house, the father figure. When you take most of the fathers out the house, what do you expect gonna happen? We're gonna go astray. We're gonna go astray. So, you know, we need more good people and good policemen, because, you know, in the hood, it was always certain policemen that was cool with the hood. They didn't do the pettiness, but they did. When I come out here, you better be gone. You know what I mean? So it was a respect that they had to build up with the community for us to be able to, okay, I know Officer Absendor coming now. He ain't gonna lock me up.
My flight's gonna be boarding.
This is
all right, Joe. Love you, man.
Oh my God, we're gonna keep cross. This is amazing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, we're gonna listen. I have nothing but time on my hands. I love you guys. Thank you for having me. And I'll give a quick shout out if anybody wants to continue to hear me. My Hand to God on YouTube. Check it out. But also check out my boy Byron.
Thank you, Joe. Love you, boy.
Love you.
Child, I'll see you soon.
All right, man. This is great.
Living in the street, the Nina Ross give cause to break laws when we floss. Off the red, evil thoughts into my head. I'm supposed to be dead to what the doctor said, but instead I choose the ways of busting off lead with the clips that rip the hollow tips in your shit. From my mind to my nine, when I hung up crying at one time, I do the hustle on my grind. That seems fine. I do the hustle.
Oh wow! I could not believe that the song turned out like that.
We hustle in this life, poverty, living life in a wheelchair, injustices, but at night we dream, we walking in the sky, look at us now, no chains, a world we never saw before. Tomorrow ain't promised to you, so dream with us, roll with us.